The distress call. The galaxy was quiet that day when the message reached Earth's orbital station. Commander Jake Miller stood in the communications bay, watching his tech officer Tom decode the alien transmission. The signal was weak, broken, filled with static and desperation. "Sir, it's coming from the outer rim," Tom said, his fingers dancing over the console. "About 40 light years from here. The translation is rough, but I think they're asking for help." Jake leaned closer to the screen. The message played again, and this time the universal translator caught more words. "Under attack. Dying. Children. Please help. Anyone." On Earth below, the military council was already meeting. General Lisa Park reviewed the data with her staff. Most alien species in the galaxy saw humans as Deathworlders, creatures from a planet so harsh that it had created monsters. Earth's gravity was crushing to most aliens. Its weather was violent. Its creatures were deadly. But that reputation had also made Earth respected. Feared, but respected. "What do we know about the species sending this?" General Park asked. "They call themselves the Keth," came the reply from Dr. Anna Ross, the xenobiologist. "Peaceful traders, small, fragile beings. They live on low-gravity worlds and avoid conflict. Their entire culture is built around art and trade." The message played again. This time they heard something else. The sound of explosions in the background, screams, the breaking of structures. "Who's attacking them?" Jake asked over the comm link from the station. "Pirates, we think. A group calling itself the Red Fleet. They've been raiding the outer colonies for months. Taking slaves, stealing resources, destroying what they can't use." General Park stood up. Around the table, her officers waited. They all knew what she was thinking. The galaxy had rules about interference, about getting involved in conflicts that weren't Earth's business. But they also had rules about answering distress calls. And humans, despite what the galaxy thought of them, had never been good at ignoring cries for help. "How long to get a ship there?" she asked. "The destroyer Thunder is closest," Admiral Ben Cole replied. "Captain Reed's ship. It could reach them in 6 days, if we push the engines." General Park nodded. "Send the Thunder, and send a message back to the Keth. Tell them help is coming." On the bridge of the Thunder, Captain Mark Reed received his orders. His crew was small but experienced, 50 humans who had served together for 3 years. They were used to patrol missions, keeping pirates away from trade routes, showing Earth's flag in distant systems. But this was different. This was a rescue mission. "Sir, should we contact the Galactic Council?" asked his first officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen. "No time," Reed replied. "By the time we get permission, those people will be dead." The Thunder's engines powered up, and the ship jumped to hyperspace. In the galaxy's databases, the ship was listed as a light destroyer, barely 200 meters long, with a crew of 50 and basic weapons. To most alien eyes, it looked almost harmless. But those databases were wrong about many things when it came to human ships. Back on the Keth homeworld of Velos, Elder Tim was trying to keep his people calm. The Red Fleet had already destroyed 2 of their mining colonies. Their small defense fleet was gone, destroyed in the first attack. They had never been warriors. They didn't know how to fight. "Did anyone answer our call?" asked Elder Kate, her voice shaking. "Yes," Tim replied. "The humans. They're sending a ship." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about humans. The stories spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Stories of the Deathworld species that had somehow reached the stars despite living on a planet that should have killed them. "One ship?" Kate asked. "That's what they said." Outside, the Red Fleet was already moving toward their homeworld. 50 warships, each one filled with raiders and killers. The pirates had been planning this attack for months. The Keth were rich, peaceful, and defenseless. Perfect targets. But as the Thunder raced through hyperspace toward Keth space, Captain Reed was reviewing everything they knew about the Red Fleet. His weapons officer, Sergeant Dan Kim, was checking their systems. Their few but powerful missile tubes, their rail guns, their shields. Think 50 of us can make a difference against 50 ships? Dan asked. Reed smiled grimly. Guess we'll find out. The distress call had been answered. Earth's Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy was about to remember why humans were feared. The Thunder arrives. 6 days later, the Thunder dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keth system. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, watching the screens light up with data. What he saw made his jaw tighten. "Sir, I'm reading multiple contacts," reported Lieutenant Amy from the sensor station. 52 ships in formation around the planet Velos. They're big, sir. Most of them are twice our size. Reed nodded grimly. Through the view screen, he could see Velos, a beautiful blue-green world that should have been peaceful. Instead, it was surrounded by the dark shapes of pirate vessels. Smoke rose from several cities on the planet's surface. "Any sign of Keth ships?" he asked. "Negative, sir. I'm detecting wreckage in orbit. Looks like they put up a fight." But Amy's voice trailed off. "They never had a chance." Reed finished. He turned to his communications officer. "Tom, send a message to the lead pirate ship. Tell them to withdraw immediately." Tom looked surprised. "Sir, there are 50 of them, and one of us. Shouldn't we call for backup first?" "Those people down there don't have time for backup," Reed replied. "Send the message." Minutes later, a reply came back. The voice was rough, filled with laughter. "This is Captain Vex of the Red Fleet. You must be the human ship the Keth were crying about. One little destroyer against my fleet. You should run home while you still can." Reed keyed the comm himself. "This is Captain Mark Reed of the Earth ship Thunder. You have 10 minutes to leave this system. This is your only warning." The laughter that came back was louder. 10 minutes. "Human, I'm going to enjoy adding your ship to my collection. All ships, target the Earth vessel. Let's show the galaxy what happens to heroes." The Red Fleet began to move, their ships spreading out in an attack formation. On the Thunder's bridge, the crew watched the tactical display light up with enemy contacts. "Sir," said Sergeant Dan from Weapons, "we're seriously outnumbered here." "Numbers aren't everything, Dan. What's our torpedo count?" 24 heavy missiles, sir, plus the railguns." Reed smiled. The pirates were moving slowly, confident in their numbers. They'd probably thought one human ship would panic, would try to run or surrender. They didn't understand humans very well. "Amy, take us in. Fast approach. Full combat speed." "Sir." Amy hesitated. "Shouldn't we keep our distance? Use our range advantage?" "Trust me," Reed said. "Helm, set course directly for their flagship." The Thunder's engines roared to life, and the small destroyer shot forward like a bullet. The pirate ships were still forming up when the human vessel reached weapons range. "Fire missiles, full spread," Reed ordered. 24 heavy torpedoes launched from the Thunder's tubes, streaking toward the pirate formation. The Red Fleet ships tried to shoot them down, but human missiles were faster and smarter than anything they'd seen. The first salvo hit 6 ships. 3 exploded immediately. 2 more spun away, crippled and burning. The 6th lost its engines and began drifting. "Impossible." Captain Vex's voice crackled over the comm. "How do they hit so hard?" But Reed wasn't done. "Rail guns, target their flagship. Full power." The Thunder's main weapons opened fire. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speed punched through the pirate flagship shields like they weren't even there. The ship's hull cracked, atmosphere venting into space. "All ships, converge on the human." Vex screamed. But the Thunder was already moving, weaving between the slower pirate vessels like a fighter among bombers. Every few seconds, its rail guns spoke again, and another enemy ship took damage. On the planet below, Elder Tim stood in the command center, watching the battle on their screens. The other Keth around him were silent, amazed. "One ship," whispered Elder Kate. "One ship against 50, and they're winning." The Thunder spun and dived, avoiding return fire while striking back with deadly precision. Captain Reed had studied the Red Fleet's tactics for 6 days during the journey. He knew they relied on numbers and fear, not skill. But humans had learned to fight on a world where everything wanted to kill them. They understood that sometimes you had to hit first, hit hard, and never stop moving. "Sir, enemy formation is breaking apart," Amy reported. "They're starting to retreat." Reed shook his head. "Not yet. They'll just come back later. Tom, open a channel to all pirate ships." The communication went out across the system. "This is Captain Reed. You came here to prey on peaceful people. You thought you were safe because of your numbers. You were wrong. Any ship that doesn't surrender in the next 60 seconds will be destroyed." The silence that followed was broken by Captain Vex's voice, much quieter now. "You can't fight all of us." "Watch me," Reed replied. The Thunder's guns spoke again. The battle turns. The next hour changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Captain Vex watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. The human ship moved like nothing he'd ever seen, diving, spinning, striking from impossible angles. Every time his ships tried to surround it, the Thunder would slip away and hit them from behind. "How are they so fast?" his weapons officer asked, panic in his voice. "It doesn't matter," Vex snarled. "We still have them outnumbered. All ships, ramming speed. If we can't shoot them, we'll crush them." But Captain Reed had been expecting this. On the Thunder's bridge, he watched the tactical display as the remaining pirate ships charged toward him. "They're getting desperate," he told his crew. "Amy, emergency maneuvers." Dan switched to close-range weapons. The Thunder's point defense systems came online, rapid-fire guns designed to stop incoming missiles. But Reed had other plans for them. As the first pirate ship closed in, trying to ram the Thunder, the human destroyer rolled sideways and opened fire with everything it had. The pirate vessel's hull peeled away like paper under the concentrated fire. "Sir, we're running low on missiles," Dan reported. "Only 6 left." "Save them," Reed ordered. "We'll finish this the old way." The Thunder accelerated toward the largest group of enemy ships. The pirates thought the humans were finally making a mistake, charging into their guns. They were wrong. At the last second, Reed ordered full reverse thrust. The Thunder's engine screamed as the ship suddenly slowed, letting 3 pirate vessels overshoot. Then the rail guns fired at point-blank range. The explosions lit up space like new stars. On Velos, the Keth watched in amazement. Their sensors showed something impossible. One small ship destroying an entire fleet. Elder Tim found himself shaking as he watched. "Are all humans like this?" asked Elder Kate. "I don't know," Tim replied. "But I'm grateful they came." The battle was turning into a rout. Of the 52 ships that had started the fight, only 15 were still operational. The rest were destroyed or drifting wrecks. Captain Vex's flagship was badly damaged, life support failing. "Captain," his navigator said quietly, "we should retreat." "No," Vex screamed. "I won't be beaten by one ship. All remaining vessels, concentrate fire on the human." But his crews were already losing their nerve. Pirates fought for profit, not glory. When the profit disappeared and death became likely, they tended to run. 3 more ships broke formation and jumped to hyperspace. Reed saw them go and smiled grimly. "Tom, hail the remaining ships." The communication channel opened. Reed's voice was calm, professional. "This is your last chance. Surrender now, or I'll destroy every one of you." Captain Vex's reply was filled with rage and fear. "You think you've won? The Red Fleet has hundreds of ships. We'll be back." "No," Reed said simply. "You won't." The Thunder launched its last 6 missiles. They spread out, each one targeting a different pirate ship. The explosions came seconds apart, lighting up the darkness of space. When the light faded, Only 3 enemy ships remained. They were already charging their hyperspace engines. "Sir, should we pursue?" Amy asked. Reed shook his head. "Let them go. They'll spread the word about what happened here. Sometimes fear is more useful than victory." As the last pirates fled, Reed turned his attention to the planet below. "Tom, open a channel to Velos." Elder Tim's face appeared on the screen, his large eyes wide with disbelief. "Captain Reed, is it over?" "The immediate threat is over," Reed confirmed. "But we need to check for survivors and help with repairs. Request permission to send down rescue teams." "Permission granted," Tim said quickly. "Captain, how can we ever thank you?" Reed was quiet for a moment. Through the view screen, he could see the burning wrecks of pirate ships drifting in space. His own ship had taken some damage, but nothing serious. His crew was tired but unharmed. "You don't need to thank us," he said finally. "You called for help. We answered." Over the next few hours, Thunder's shuttles flew down to Velos. The human crew worked alongside the Keth, pulling survivors from collapsed buildings, providing medical aid, sharing supplies. The Keth had never seen anything like it. The same humans who had just destroyed a fleet were now gently caring for injured children, helping rebuild homes, sharing their food rations. "I don't understand," Elder Kate whispered to Tim as they watched a human medic treating a wounded Keth. "They're supposed to be monsters. Deathworlders." Tim watched Captain Reed helping clear debris from a school. "Maybe," he said softly, "we've been thinking about it wrong. Maybe being from a death world doesn't make you a monster. Maybe it makes you strong enough to protect others." News of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. The galaxy reacts. Within hours, the story reached every corner of civilized space. A single human destroyer had defeated 50 pirate ships and saved an entire world. But the details that followed shocked a galaxy even more. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kell of the Vaxi Empire stood before the assembled delegates. His 4 arms gestured dramatically as he spoke. "Honored colleagues, we must discuss the human situation. They acted without council approval, without following proper diplomatic channels." Ambassador Yara of the Centauri Federation nodded her serpentine head. "The humans have always been difficult. This proves they cannot be trusted to follow galactic law." But Ambassador Zed of the Helios Republic, one of the few species that had worked with humans before, stood up. "With respect, colleagues, the humans answered a distress call, something the rest of us failed to do." "The Red Fleet was not our concern," Kell replied coldly. "The Outer Rim colonies chose to live without council protection. Their problems are their own. Tell that to the Keth children who are alive because 50 humans decided to help." Zed shot back. The debate raged for hours, but meanwhile, something else was happening across the galaxy. The 3 pirate ships that had escaped the battle were spreading their story in every spaceport, every trading post, every cantina from the core worlds to the Rim. In a tavern on Kepler Station, Captain Nix of the surviving pirate vessel, Dark Star, sat hunched over his drink, his scaled hands shaking. "I'm telling you, they're not normal," he whispered to the crowd around him. One ship, and they tore through us like we were made of paper." "Come on, Nix," laughed a smuggler. 50 ships, you must be exaggerating." Nix's eyes went wide. "I was there. I saw Captain Vex's flagship get cut in half by those railguns. I saw them move like a fighter while hitting like a battleship. These humans, they're not like other species." Word spread quickly through the criminal underworld. The Red Fleet, terror of the Outer Rim, had been broken by a single human destroyer. Other pirate groups began to worry. If the humans could do that to the Red Fleet, what could they do to smaller gangs? On the trade world of Merchant's Rest, Captain Terra of the independent freighter Starwind was having a different conversation with her mixed crew. "The humans did what none of us would do," she said, reviewing the news reports. "They risked everything to help strangers." Her engineer, a 6-armed Thek named Jorl, shook his head. Dangerous thinking, Captain. Getting involved in other people's problems. Is it? Terra asked. The Keth were peaceful traders, just like us. What if pirates attacked us tomorrow? Would you want someone to help? The question hung in the air. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. In some sectors, fear was growing. Fear of these unpredictable humans. But in others, something else was emerging. Hope. Back on Velos, the reconstruction was nearly complete. The Thunder's crew had worked alongside the Keth for 3 days, helping rebuild what the pirates had destroyed. Captain Reed stood in the main square of the capital city, watching human and Keth children playing together. Elder Tim approached him. Captain, we've been discussing something. The Council of Elders has made a decision. Reed turned to face him. What kind of decision? We want to request formal alliance with Earth, not just a trade agreement, a mutual defense pact. Reed was surprised. Elder Tim, that's a big step. Are you sure? The old Keth nodded firmly. Captain, for generations we've tried to stay neutral, to avoid taking sides. We thought that would keep us safe. But safety isn't something you can hide from. Sometimes you have to choose who you stand with. And you want to stand with humanity. We want to stand with people who answer when others call for help. That evening, Reed received a communication from Earth. General Park's face appeared on the screen, and she looked concerned. Captain, you've stirred up quite a storm. Half the Galactic Council wants to censure Earth for unauthorized military action. The other half wants to hire us as mercenaries. Reed frowned. What are our orders, General? For now, return to Earth. But Reed, good work out there. You and your crew saved a lot of lives. As the Thunder prepared to leave Velos, hundreds of Keth gathered to watch. They had built a small monument in the town square, a simple stone with 51 names carved into it. The names of the Thunder's crew members who had risked everything to save them. Elder Kate stood beside Elder Tim as the human ship lifted off. Do you think they'll come back if we need them again? Tim smiled. I think if anyone in this galaxy calls for help, and the humans hear it, they'll come. That's who they are. High above, the Thunder jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of the battle back to Earth. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. The new order. 6 months later, the galaxy was a different place. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Thunder, now flagship of the newly formed Terran Defense Fleet. Around him, a dozen other human ships moved in formation. Destroyers, frigates, and the massive new battleship, Guardian. But they weren't alone. Sir, incoming transmission from the Keth vessel, Harmony, reported Lieutenant Amy, now promoted to commander. Put them through. Elder Tim's face appeared on screen, but he looked different now. Instead of simple robes, he wore the uniform of the Mutual Defense Alliance, the organization that had grown from Earth's actions at Velos. Captain Reed, we're receiving another distress call. The Pax colony in the Epsilon sector. Pirates again, but this time they're asking for the Alliance specifically. Reed smiled. How many ships are we talking about? Intelligence says about 30 vessels. But Captain, Tim paused. They're not asking for Earth alone anymore. The Pax want the Alliance. All of us. Through the view screen, Reed could see the other ships in their formation. The Keth had contributed their fast scout vessels. The Helios Republic had sent their heavy cruisers. Even some of the smaller species had joined, offering what they could. All ships, this is Captain Reed. We have a new mission. Set course for Epsilon sector. The fleet jumped to hyperspace together. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. Ambassador Kell of the Vaxi Empire looked tired and frustrated as he addressed the chamber. Honored delegates, we must face facts. The Mutual Defense Alliance now controls 12 star systems. They're operating outside Council authority, and their influence is growing. Ambassador Yara hissed softly. It's that human influence. They've made the smaller species think they can stand up to us. But Ambassador Zed of the Helios Republic stood up, wearing the new blue and silver uniform of the Alliance. The Alliance doesn't threaten anyone who leaves peaceful species alone. We respond to distress calls. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. You're breaking apart the established order. Kel protested. The established order, Zed replied calmly, let the Red Fleet terrorize the Outer Rim for years. The established order told the Keth that their problems weren't our concern. Maybe it's time for a new order. More delegates began to shift uncomfortably. Over the past months, several more species had joined the Alliance. Not the major powers, but dozens of smaller worlds and colonies. The ones who had always been ignored, always been told their problems weren't important enough. In the Epsilon sector, the battle was already over by the time the news reached the Council. 30 pirate ships had surrendered without firing a shot when they saw the Alliance fleet drop out of hyperspace. The sight of human warships flanked by vessels from 6 different species had broken their will to fight. But the real shock came in the aftermath. Instead of hunting down the fleeing pirates, the Alliance had done something unprecedented. They'd offered them a choice. Join the Alliance as security forces, help protect the worlds they'd once raided, or face trial for their crimes. Most had chosen to join. Captain Reed stood in the meeting room aboard the Guardian, surrounded by officers from multiple species. The former pirate Captain Nix was there too, now wearing Alliance colors. The Outer Rim is secure, reported Commander Amy. No major pirate activity in over 3 months. Trade routes are opening up, added Captain Terra, who had joined the Alliance with her merchant vessel. Species that haven't talked to each other in decades are starting to work together. Reed nodded. What about the Council? Elder Tim, now serving as Alliance diplomatic chief, looked thoughtful. They're starting to realize we're not going away. 3 more council members have quietly asked about joining. They see which way the wind is blowing. And the major powers, still holding out. But Captain, they're worried. The Vaxi Empire just doubled their military budget. The Centauri Federation is asking their colonies to increase security. They know something has changed. Reed walked to the view screen, looking out at the stars. We never wanted to change the galaxy. We just wanted to help. Maybe that's why it worked, said Commander Amy. The galaxy was used to people who wanted power, who wanted control. They didn't know how to handle people who just wanted to do the right thing. A year later, the Alliance had grown to include 47 species and over 200 worlds. The Galactic Council still existed, but its power was fading. When people cried for help, they called the Alliance. And the Alliance always answered. In the quiet of space, the Thunder patrolled the trade routes that had once been hunting grounds for pirates. On her hull, painted in simple letters, was the motto that had become known across the galaxy. They called, "We came." It was a simple promise, but it had changed everything. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't a weapon or a warship. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is someone who actually cares. The end.